All right, so today we're diving deep into the Palo Alto Baylands.
Awesome.
I think a lot of our listeners are probably curious about this spot.
Yeah.
They might be thinking about checking it out themselves,
Hmm.
or maybe they've heard about it and just want to learn more.
Right.
So we're going to dig into the history, the amazing birds that live there,
Yeah.
and why it's such an important place ecologically.
Yeah. I think one of the most fascinating things about the Palo Alto Baylands is that they're like this little snapshot of the past.
Oh,
It's kind of hard to imagine now, but this whole area used to be a huge, sprawling marsh. I mean, it stretched all the way across the San Francisco Bay.
wow. You really can't picture that anymore. There's so much development everywhere now.
Exactly. And over time, as the Bay Area grew, we ended up losing a ton of these wetlands.
Yeah?
The parts that are left, like the Baylands in Palo Alto, they're like these precious remnants, these little islands of a world that's mostly vanished.
Okay, so these islands are important for more than just being pretty, right? I mean, they must have some kind of ecological role.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're actually crucial for protecting us from flooding.
Oh, interesting.
Think of them as giant sponges. They soak up all that extra water when we have big storms or those king tides.
I see.
Without them, the communities around here would be way more at risk from flooding.
Wow, that makes so much sense. Okay, so how can we actually experience this unique ecosystem? I mean, without messing things up.
Well, that's where the observation deck and the boardwalk come in.
Oh, yeah.
They give you this incredible way to connect with the Baylands without disturbing all that delicate life that's going on there.
And I've heard that the boardwalk is really accessible, which is fantastic. That means everyone can get up close to the marsh.
Yeah. They designed it to be inclusive so anyone, no matter what their abilities are, can really immerse themselves in the sights and sounds of the marsh.
I love that. Okay, so one thing I'm curious about, the Baylands aren't just one big uniform marsh, right?
You're totally right. It's actually a mosaic of different habitats.
Oh,
So you've got sections that are pure salt water, they're directly influenced by the tides.
Uh-huh.
And then there are these brackish zones. Those are where the saltwater and freshwater mix.
Right.
And then further inland, you find the freshwater areas.
Wow. So can you give us an example of what that actually looks like in the Baylands?
Sure. So in the saltwater areas, you're going to see these really tough plants that can handle all that salt, things like cordgrass and pickleweed.
Uh-huh.
They've evolved to thrive in those harsh conditions. But as you move into the brackish zones, you'll see the plant life start to change. You'll see things like cattails and bulrushes popping up. They don't like it quite as salty. And then in those freshwater areas, you get even more variety. It's a real haven for all sorts of animals.
So this mix of habitats, is that really what drives all the diversity of life in the Baylands?
Exactly. It's all about the variety. And one of the most amazing examples of that is the birds. I mean, there are over 200 different bird species that have been recorded in the Palo Alto Baylands. It's a total bird watcher's paradise.
That's amazing. So, I mean, for someone who's never been, what kind of birds are we likely to see?
Oh, you'll probably see some elegant great egrets and snowy egrets wading in the shallows, hunting for fish. Oh, and keep an eye out for those impressive great blue herons, too. They just stand so still, patiently waiting to ambush their prey.
It's just wild to think that all that's happening right there, so close to such a busy city.
I know, it's pretty amazing. Oh, and speaking of amazing birds, the Baylands are actually a crucial breeding ground for the endangered Ridgway's rail. It's this small, kind of secretive marsh bird,
Wow.
and it really depends on these dense wetland habitats to survive.
I had no clue that such a rare bird was living, like, practically in our backyard. It really makes you realize how vital these habitats are. Okay, so besides birds, what else makes this whole ecosystem work?
Well, the marsh itself is like this giant nursery. It's absolutely teeming with life. It's full of fish and crabs and shrimp and all kinds of tiny little invertebrates. All those creatures are the foundation of the food web. They feed the birds and all the other animals that call the Baylands home.
So it's all connected, the plants, the water, the animals.
Exactly. It's like this incredibly complex web of life, and the health of the whole marsh depends on keeping that balance.
Okay, you've really sold me. Now I'm really ready to go check out the Baylands myself. So let's say I get there and I head straight for that observation deck, binoculars in hand. What am I likely to see?
Okay, well, as I mentioned, you'll definitely see those egrets and herons waiting around. Oh, and depending on the tide, you might even catch a glimpse of some harbor seals, hauled out on those mudflats that get exposed at low tide.
No way. That would be incredible. I love the idea of seeing seals just chilling out in the sun. So from that observation deck, we can get a great overview. But what if we want to get closer to the actual marsh?
Oh, then the boardwalk is definitely the place to go. You'll be right in amongst those tall cordgrass and fickleweed plants, and you got to keep your ears open for the call of the clapperrail. It's super distinctive, this loud, clattering sound.
Oh,
And you might even spot some of the smaller birds, like marsh wrens and song sparrows zipping through the reeds.
this place sounds like a total symphony of nature. I'm already imagining all those different bird calls.
It really is. It's totally immersive. And then beyond the boardwalk, there are tons of trails that wind through the Baylands. So you can explore all sorts of different parts of the marsh. Each one has its own unique view.
And I know they have the Lucy Evans Baylands Nature Center too, so we could learn even more there. Or even like rent a kayak.
Definitely. The Nature Center is an awesome resource for anyone visiting. You can learn about the history of the Baylands, all the different plants and animals, and all the work that's going on to protect this place.
So it's not just about watching, it's about really understanding and getting involved with the ecosystem.
Absolutely.
I like that. Okay, so any final tips for people who are thinking about visiting?
Oh, yeah. If you're into bird watching, the best times to go are early in the morning or late afternoon. That's when the birds are most active. And definitely check the tide charts. High tide brings in different birds, and it gives you better views from the observation deck. And, every season offers something unique, so there's always something new to see.
This is super helpful. Okay, any final thoughts or advice, for people who are going to head out and explore the Baylands?
Yeah, let's all be respectful visitors. Stay on the trails, pack out your trash, and give the wildlife plenty of space. We want to make sure this incredible place stays healthy for years to come.
Absolutely. So I think we've learned that the Palo Alto Baylands are so much more than just a pretty place.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's a vital ecosystem, a haven for wildlife. It even helps with flood control. And it's this window into the past. It's remarkable that this natural treasure exists right here in the middle of such a busy urban area.
I know, right? It really shows that nature can thrive even in places you wouldn't expect, and that we all have a part to play in protecting these special spots.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that brings us to this interesting question for our listeners. Now that you know about how important the Baylands are, what can you do to help protect this unique habitat?
Yeah,
Whether it's supporting conservation efforts, educating your friends and family, or just being a responsible visitor, every little bit helps.
definitely.
So that wraps up our deep dive into the Palo Alto Baylands. We hope you'll explore more, maybe even plan a visit. Discover this hidden gem. It might be in your own backyard or just a short trip away. Happy exploring.
Have fun.
Thanks for joining us.
See ya.